Get ready to listen, learn, and earn CE hours. This podcast features content from an accredited CE activity provided by Calibri Healthcare. Visit elitelearning.com/podcasts for accreditation and disclosure statements and instructions on how you may be able to earn CE credits.
Nursing is in every aspect of our lives, and how we can influence and be involved is really important.
We are so glad you could join us for episode 2 of the series Careers in Nursing, Academia, Leadership, and Practice. In episode 1, Dr. Menzik-Kennedy discussed the 4 advanced practice roles in nursing and educational routes available for those roles. In this episode, Dr. Menzik-Kennedy will continue the discussion on nursing roles within leadership and academia and the educational requirements needed if you are interested in one of those roles. Can you talk about the various educational tracks and certifications for leadership?
Absolutely. So this becomes really complex because there's so many entry and exit points in nursing. Most oftentimes you'll see individuals who do have bachelor's degrees in nursing who are in more formal leadership. You'll have individuals maybe with a diploma or an ADN who are in charge nurse roles, which is again, and or shared leadership, which again is, a leadership role. But as you start to get more into the formal positions, people do have more range of options. So, for instance, you have master's degrees options first. You have, an MBA. You have an MSN, or some version of them, focusing in on nursing or business. And sometimes the master's in nursing will also focus in on leadership and management. When I got done with my bachelor's degree in nursing, I decided I wanted to be a manager or do more leadership stuff. And I went and got my MBA. Now, the MBA program had a focus in healthcare management, but I was one of 2 nurses in my cohort. They were all individuals who were not clinicians, who worked in healthcare or worked somewhere around healthcare that wanted to change the system. And I was a little worried because I was like, oh my goodness, these are individuals who think they have the solutions, but they've never done patient care like a nurse has facilitated and participated in care. So I realized how important my nursing knowledge was in being able to make change happen. So once I got done with my MBA, I knew I wanted more nursing knowledge. So I went back and got my PhD in nursing because I knew the whole of it would make me stronger as a nursing leader. The world is full of individuals who have business degrees who are not nurses. So how do we really get nurse leaders and managers to the forefront who understand the business skills and acumen, but also represent nursing and facilitate nursing?
Absolutely.
And we don't have enough of that.
Street cred. Bring in the street cred. That's what we need. Absolutely. Yeah,
And
love that.
And then there's a lot of individuals who might be in the nurse executive level, who have PhDs and DNPs, who have continued on with their graduate and have learned more strategic skills and further advanced their own graduate level understanding of those same roles. Of course, then there's also a couple different certifying bodies. I'm certified through ANCC for Nurse Executive Advanced. And I find it's important, even though I have my PhD and my MBA, to be able to demonstrate to the public and other nurses that certification is important. And I do participate in continuing education because even though I've gotten so much college, my learning is still never done.
Absolutely. Good point. And there are particular activities that have been shown to develop leadership qualities. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is true. So one would be, of course, like I've mentioned, it's the shared leadership, but it's also about, and this is a fine line, when to say no and when to say yes. Because I think sometimes when individuals are in a role or a program, they're afraid. So this is afraid to say yes because they don't want to fail, and they think they have to know more, have more experience. And the research will actually show um, that when men apply for a position, they might only meet the qualifications of like 25 to 30% of the bullet points, and they'll still apply. And women will wait to they've met 80% of the qualifications before they apply for a role. So, I think self-reflection is really important, and recognizing it's not about the position. So I guess this goes into a little bit about resumes. When people write their resumes, they were a director or a charge nurse, and they write the description of what they did. Well, we all know what a director does. We all know what a charge nurse does. But what we don't know is what exactly you did. And so those are the skill pieces. Even as a staff nurse, being able to call out the times that you acted in a leader role or a manager role through participation on shared governance, or when you changed a policy, or when you improved the quality of care. Those are leadership and management traits. And those are the types of things that people need to recognize. It's not just my job. Those are the things that you want to look for and to be able to do. So recognizing that it's not a title per se, but it's the collection of experiences that you're gaining that will help facilitate you into further leadership activities and roles. And then putting that on your resume.
Wow.
Demonstrating those.
That's so helpful. That is so helpful. Something I hadn't even ever considered. So that's super helpful for anyone that's listening. And again, I said we were going to get to this, and we are. Here we are, nursing boards. Let's talk about nursing boards. Why are they important, and what is the Nursing Board Coalition?
Yeah, so the Nurses on Boards Coalition had a goal of recognizing how important, because we can talk about the roles of nurses within the hospital as an example, again, a very hospital-centric example, but the change often comes down. So change comes up from the bottom to the top, but also top from the bottom. And when you look at the board of a hospital, typically, again, you have physicians and others from the community who have no healthcare experience, who are helping to direct the strategic mission, vision, and initiatives of the organization. And nursing's voice is so important to be able to contribute to that conversation. So the Nurses on Boards Coalition wanted to get 10,000 nurses at least on boards. And this is, hospital boards are an example of one, but it could be a school board. It could be a clinic, a local community clinic board. It could be the water board. It could be any board in which a nurse could be on, because nursing is in every aspect of our lives, and how we can influence and be involved is really important. So we met the 10,000 goal, and we need to continue, though, to expand that and really demonstrate that nurses can help provide that strategic vision, mission, and help to guide an organization and hold others accountable. So when we say, when we're looking at that conversation between finance and cost and quality, quite often we have plenty of individuals who can talk to the finance and cost perspective, but we need the nurse's voice in there to speak to the quality piece and the patient piece. And so that's where, when we show up, it'll then trickle down to the bottom in a much more effective manner than just always trying to lead from the bottom up.
And can anyone at any level in nursing get involved in nursing boards? You apply to be on them? Are you nominated? How does that work?
Absolutely. Anyone at any level, any degree could be involved. And I would recommend people just, looking at, start with looking on the internet, looking at, and if you have an organization that you're passionate about or a topic you're passionate about, what are those organizations locally that are looking for board members? They're usually, the call is on someone's website typically. So you might go to their website. You could even call and say, when are you looking for individuals to run? also, legislative positions, and the state. So if you're looking the states, each state government site too, often posts various positions for community and others to be nominated or self-nominated to various positions. And that's always an opportunity just to search your state government site for open board positions and open positions at the state level. Because we really do need people who are partnering with the various health organizations, Department of Healths in each state to help provide community insight and nursing insight. Quite often, there's not nurses in those roles either. And that's very useful. So part of it's an internet search because there's so many individuals in so many places, but it could be as simple as just running for your school board.
Right.
And, those, we just had our elections and have a friend, colleague of mine from Idaho, who's just the first nurse elected to their state legislature.
Wow.
So, so it's not a board, but it's an equally important leadership position. So just searching and watching to see what's out there. And then, you may lose, you may not get it, but keep going, right? Keep doing it and keep putting yourself out there and keep putting your name out there. And eventually we'll have nurses in every place.
That's fantastic. Do retired nurses get involved in this kind of thing?
Oh, I hope they do.
Okay.
So I think that might be some of the barriers to nurses who are in the middle of their career and have families. Now, that should not stop them. I have children. I'm very busy. But as nurses who like to say they're in preferment now, not retirement, they get to pick and choose what they want to do. And I would hope, that's one place to utilize their nursing wisdom and their experiential wisdom is to say, I am an RN and let me go use that, or I'm an advanced practice RN, let me go use that in this, and this, now that I have time and availability. If they don't have to be somewhere 8 to 5, they now can spend more time doing that. So I would hope that our retired nurses who have chosen preferment can go get involved that way as well. We don't want to lose their wisdom.
Right. So our listeners I don't know how many retired people are still getting their CEs, but for those listening, let your parents know that they can get involved. So
absolutely.
The last thing I wanted to talk to you about was academia, which obviously you have a lot of experience in. So academia roles are also really interesting. They're a really interesting career option. What are some of the different educational pathways to consider here?
Oh my gosh. So, this is, again, one of those things sometimes where people kind of just step into. So often it could be just being a preceptor for nursing students in your unit or department.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So that's kind of a first step, is taking, saying, I'm willing to take nursing students with me. And then also often, so that you've got community colleges for the most part, and baccalaureate programs and graduate programs. And there's a lot of universities that will allow, or the state boards technically will allow, individuals with bachelor's degrees to be able to be preceptors or clinical faculty. And so that's, usually you can't do those types of roles without a bachelor's degree. So you would need a bachelor's degree or more. And then as you teach, a lot of community colleges do have a lot of master's faculty, as do universities. But so you would get a master's in nursing, maybe a master's in education, depending on where your focus is. Although there's a lot of individuals who also have a PhD or a DNP. And it's interesting because AACN has said that about 60% of DNP graduates actually have gone into teaching. And so whether they're practicing, also doing direct patient care in the role as an NP or a midwife, but they're also teaching. So, which is great because, of course, we need those. However, we're very short on PhD staff, and the Future of Nursing report 2020 to 2030 says, great job on the first Future Nursing report, right? So the first Future Nursing report said we want to double the number of doctoral prepared nurses, and we met that goal. However, majority of that was in the DNP arena. Now, DNP versus PhD. So a PhD are those who generate new knowledge. And the DNPs are those who utilize that new knowledge and translate it into practice. So we need both roles. But what the Future of Nursing report that just came out said is we need to focus in on preparing more PhD nurses. Now, PhD prepared nurses can teach. People think of them a lot as researchers, but it is very important, as myself having a PhD, that we can teach and help students learn the value and importance of theory and research, philosophy, understanding the way of the world as we generate that new knowledge. Um, because nursing is an art and a science. It's about having our own unique body of knowledge, and it's about the art of translating that into practice. And so from a faculty perspective, having a diverse staff is fantastic. So you could be a DNP prepared nurse who is teaching. You could be a PhD prepared nurse who is teaching, but also there are other roles too, such as an EDD. I've seen nurses who have gone back and get an EDD, and that's it's a practice doctorate for those who want to teach, kind of like a DNP is a practice doctorate for nurse practitioners and advanced practice roles. And so there's a lot of different options for individuals. And of course, there's even certifications for those in professional development who want to be certified as they teach as well.
Wow, that's impressive. Okay, and what degrees does one get if they're interested in just specifically teaching? I know you've said that everyone can teach, but what is the most common that they go for if they want specifically just to teach?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. Great question. I think what we've seen are more DNPs, individuals getting their DNP to go into teaching. And they may not have started out that way, wanting to do that, but they have decided the DNP is typically a shorter program for a doctoral degree, for a terminal degree. And in some instances might be easier than obtaining a PhD because there's less credit hours involved. There's still the project work, depending on what university you're at. And it's important, though, to note that the DNP is really for one of the 4 advanced practice roles or a leadership role. So the accrediting bodies really don't want you doing a DNP when you're in your DNP program. Doing an educational capstone project, one that's about teaching, because that wasn't the intent of the DNP role. And so, however, that doesn't mean you're not a teacher,
right?
If you do get your DNP. And so you get a DNP in one of the 4 main areas or from a leadership perspective, and then you can go and teach. Those who get their PhDs do spend a little bit more time. And I think because of the 2 options and the DNP being fairly new, a lot more people have chosen down that route because they didn't want to do research. And I think that's a bit of a travesty because I think maybe you don't want to be someone who does research 100% of your time. There's quite a few who have I've spoken to who are now DNPs who said, you know what, now that I'm into this, I should have gotten a PhD because that's where more of my interest lies. But as they were thinking through it, that's not what they wanted. I do know there's a handful of programs that do give you dual degrees. So you can get a DNP PhD.
Wow.
From several universities across the United States. And I actually know a few people who have both degrees because, again, the knowledge is different. And what you learn is uniquely different. So there's a way to kind of tag that together so that you're not doing double the work, of course. But that is still very valuable.
Wow, very interesting. And so we talked about there being a faculty shortage. Can we talk also about, you mentioned the Future of Nursing report. Of all health professions students, how much do nursing students comprise of that total? I'm curious.
Over half of them.
Really?
And yes. And so when you think about all the professions, you've got RTs, PTs, OTs, speech, physicians, PAs, everyone. Nursing is over half of the health professions students, which is an amazing amount. And so
Yes.
when we have a shortage, it impacts everyone all over the place. Well, in one aspect, we have enough individuals. We should have enough individuals, but when we have less students, that's very impactful. When we have less faculty, we have less. So we're already in a shortage of faculty. We don't have enough places for more students to go. So it may even be more than that if we were able to fully staff and fully accept everyone who wanted to go into academia and it wanted to go into nursing. And people thought during COVID that we would see a drop in people applying to nursing school. And that was quite the opposite, actually.
Really?
We had more individuals who saw what nurses did and were inspired by nursing, despite the hardships and the sometimes horrific situations nurses were in, said, I want to do that. I want to make a difference, and I'm going to do that. So we had more people that want to go into nursing because of the pandemic, which is fantastic. We just can't accept them, and we can't get them in through and fast enough.
Wow, that is sad. Yeah. It's definitely a purposeful profession. There's absolutely no question. And I appreciate you talking to us about these really important areas in nursing and some areas that some of our listeners, I'm sure had not thought of prior. Leadership certainly does empower others, and academia contributes in such a huge way. All of these contribute in such a huge way. Any final thoughts you'd like to share with us before we wrap up this incredible conversation?
Well, thank you. I would say when I started nursing, I wanted to be a nurse since I was in high school. And I thought I wanted to be a nurse practitioner. Didn't do that route. But being open to opportunities, recognizing you can change your path at any given time. You can be a second in career even within nursing. We talk about individuals who come into nursing as a second career. But even in your own career, you could be a nurse executive. You could be a nurse educator. You could go back to school and be a nurse practitioner or a CRNA. So there's a lot of things. You have a long time to be in nursing, and you have a lot of ability to kind of go through and really practice and do what you want. So don't feel like you're ever stuck in one spot or that's the thing. And nurses really are lifelong learners. And so take advantage of all the opportunities you have in nursing to do all these amazingly great things. And, go do what life's too short to not do what you want to do. So go find something that you like to do and go do it.
That's fantastic. Great advice. I appreciate that so much. Thank you for joining us. We wish you every success in your new role as president of the American Nurses Association. I can tell we're in good hands. So,
thank you.
Thank you for that. And thank you for joining us during this episode of Distinguished Careers in Nursing, featuring Dr. Jennifer Menzik-Kennedy, who obviously has had and will continue to have a distinguished career. We encourage you to continue your learning by checking out the many courses available on elitelearning.com. Thank you for listening. This is Leanna McGuire for Colibri Healthcare.
This podcast featured content from an accredited CE activity provided by Colibri Healthcare. Visit elitelearning.com/podcasts for accreditation and disclosure statements and instructions on how you may be able to earn CE credits. Take your learning to the next level by subscribing to more podcasts on compelling healthcare topics.